Shalom, welcome to the Jewish Task Force, JTF. My name is Chaim ben Pesach. This video is dedicated to elevating the soul of Yosef ben Meir. An independent Scotland will be much better for the Scottish people. How do I know? From history. First of all, I'm an American. The United States once had 13 colonies that were under the rule of the British Empire. And the same type of arguments that are now being made against Scottish independence were made against independence for the United States. And there were many loyalists to the British Crown living within the United States at that time who didn't want to be independent, who said they're going to lose trade with Britain. You're going to erect trade barriers. This is going to be bad for business. It's going to be bad for American agriculture. America was just a poor country at that time. But the United States bravely fought for their independence, and we saw the consequences. Those 13 colonies in a basically poor agricultural nation eventually became the world's greatest superpower in history. I'm also a Jew, and I know from Jewish history that when the British controlled the land of Israel, they made the same type of arguments that they make now with Scotland, with some variation here and there. Their big argument was, you Jews can't survive without British protection. You're surrounded by hundreds of millions of Arab Muslims who want to kill you, who want to push you into the sea. You'll never be able to survive. You're outnumbered 100 to 1 by the Arabs. How are you going to survive? We have to be here. The British Army has to be here to protect you. The Jews, like the Americans a couple of centuries earlier, the Jews rejected that argument and took the brave decision to fight for their independence and to throw the British out of the land of Israel. And today we see an Israel that is flourishing and successful and a light unto the nations. Today, no one in Israel or the United States regrets the fact that they chose independence despite British propaganda, despite British scaremongering. They chose independence, and no one, you won't find anyone in the United States or in Israel that today will tell you, oh, I wish we were part of the British Empire. That was a mistake that we chose independence. In fact, you won't find anyone in any of the former British colonies, in any of the countries that were once controlled by Britain. You will never find anyone in Canada or Australia or New Zealand or Ireland who today will say that they regret that they became independent, that they wish they were part of the British Empire, that they wish that they were connected to Britain again and that they had not achieved sovereignty. No one regrets leaving and becoming independent today. No one. If the Scots vote for independence on September 18th, I am telling you without a doubt that 10 years from now, no one in Scotland will regret having become independent. No one. You won't find anyone in Scotland 10 years from now saying, we should have stayed with Britain, we should never have become independent, we should never have left the control of London and the Westminster politicians. No one will say that 10 years from now. Everyone will realize that it was the right decision to make to become independent, just as everyone realizes that in all of the other countries that became independent, the United States and Israel and Canada and Australia and New Zealand and Ireland, history proves that independence is a wise decision to make, especially when dealing with London, because London unfairly exploits countries that are under its control. And that unfair exploitation has been taking place in Scotland now for 300 years. Scotland has almost all of the United Kingdom's oil and natural resources. Scotland should be the richest part of the United Kingdom. It's blessed with tremendous resources. It should be the richest part of Britain, yet it's the poorest. Do you know that in terms of inflation, in relative terms, the average Scottish family has seen a 10% drop in family income during the past 2 years if you compare it to the rise in the cost of goods and services, inflation? The value of what Scots are earning today is 10% less than it was just 2 years ago. Scotland is falling behind England and falling behind all the countries in the region, falling behind Ireland and falling behind even other countries in Europe. Again, Scotland should be the richest. Scotland has all the natural reasons to be the richest, and yet it's the poorest. Because you're not getting your fair share. You are being robbed. You're being robbed by the Westminster politicians and the Westminster bureaucrats and government agencies. By the time they're finished, and the big corporations from London, by the time they're finished exploiting the oil and the natural resources and everything else that Scotland has to offer, you do not get your fair share. Only an independent Scotland will get a fair share for the Scottish people. And the Scottish people will benefit tremendously from independence for that reason. Now, Westminster propaganda tells you that Scotland is going to lose benefits if they become independent. The same thing that they said to all of these other countries in the British Empire that eventually became independent. The same line. I could tell you that my people in Israel were told the same thing, and Americans were told the same thing before the American Revolution. Same exact line. But look at what's happening now with British control. Look at what's happening with British control. Young Scots are leaving Scotland. Educated Scots are leaving. Successful Scots are leaving. The entrepreneurs and the innovators are leaving. You have a brain drain. You're losing your best, your most talented, your most educated. You're being left with an aging, poor population. You're losing everything right now. They're bleeding you dry. All the benefits, all the natural resources and benefits of Scotland are benefiting London. They're not benefiting the Scottish people. It's not reaching the Scottish people. And that's why so many young and educated and talented Scots are fleeing. The only way to stop that, the only way to have any hope in the future is for an independent Scotland. Because you're losing everything right now. The riskiest and most dangerous and most illogical thing you could do would be to continue with the present course of action, to continue under British control, where you have no control over your own destiny. You don't even control your own natural resources. You don't even control what your own country is producing. Under Westminster control, you have no future. And that's why there is no hope, no message of hope from the No camp. The No camp and the No campaign, they don't give you a message of hope. They just give you scare tactics and fear-mongering. And the reason they do it is because there can't be any hope if you just continue under British rule. There's nothing to look forward to. There's no future to look forward to. With the Yes campaign, there is hope for a brighter future. At least the people of Scotland will decide their own destiny. Don't you think the people of Scotland care more about the future of Scotland than the politicians in Westminster? You would rather have the politicians in Westminster controlling your destiny and deciding your future rather than have the people of Scotland decide their own future? How could there even be a question here? Now, the Westminster politicians and their No campaign puppets, they're not trying to save Scotland or do something good for Scotland. They're trying to save their own personal careers. They're making money and fortunes from all of this, from their connection to London and to Westminster. They're not interested in what's best for the people of Scotland. They're interested in their own personal advantages and careers. Do you trust the promises of the Westminster politicians? Because if you vote no, you're going to have to trust their promises. Your future is in their hands. Do you trust them? If you do, if you trust the promises of the Westminster politicians, then you really are not ready for independence. Then they're right about you. You know, the Westminster politicians are in effect saying that the people of Scotland are not smart enough, are not good enough to run their own destiny, to run their own country. If you trust these Westminster politicians, then you're going to prove them right. Of course the people of Scotland can run their own destiny. Of course Scotland can be a successful, wealthy, prosperous nation. Of course Scotland has all the advantages that it needs. Scotland has far more advantages than many other countries, most other countries that became independent and became successful. The brave decision to make is to vote for independence, to vote yes on September 18th. It's the logical decision to make. It's the sensible decision to make. The whole world will admire and respect your courage. We'll take another look at Scotland if you vote yes. The whole world is going to take another look at you and say, these are brave people, and they do have a lot of natural resources here, and they are pretty talented people, and it is a beautiful country. That international attention and admiration that you will get if you vote yes, that will attract eventually more business investment and jobs and trade. You will attract more people to Scotland by proving that you're courageous and by proving that you're willing to take the bold steps necessary in order to ensure a brighter future. Look at the excitement. Look at the excitement in this campaign. For the first time in memory, 80% of the people are expected to vote. There's so much excitement. Everybody's speaking about it. Everybody's so interested in what's going to happen in the referendum. What a magnificent example of the spirit of the Scottish people and of the spirit of true free decision-making. That excitement, that enthusiasm, that willingness to participate, that is what will build a healthy and strong and prosperous Scotland with a great future. That's what's needed to build a great future. When you get the people involved and enthusiastic and willing to fight and willing to work and willing to be active and being motivated, that is what builds a healthy society and a strong economy and an independent nation and an independent culture. That is what will give hope to the dreams of the Scottish people. Don't kill off that hope by voting no and by returning to the control of the corrupt Westminster politicians. Don't listen to the propaganda from the British-controlled news media. Don't make this terrible mistake. Don't make this mistake. On September 18th, you can make a decision that the whole world will salute you for. A decision that future generations will bless you for. A decision that will bring a new future to the people of Scotland. A future where instead of everybody leaving Scotland, people will want to go to Scotland because it'll once again become a land of opportunity and hope. On September 18th, that can only happen if you vote yes.